ESO is getting a new class, the Arcanist, and the hype is big, and today we are going to find out what kind of skills this new class has and what makes the Arcanist unique. So yeah, let's have a look.
We're learning more and more every week about ESO's upcoming new class for 2023, the Arcanist. In this video, we'll do a deep dive into everything we know about the class so far, including some powerful new abilities that were recently revealed, like this Templar-style beam skill that looks pretty insane. So
this one looks more OP
right
actually than the Templar one.
First, let's cover the basics. The Arcanist is ESO's 7th class, the 3rd new class after release, and it's set to debut on June 5th for PC and June 20th for consoles as part of ESO's new Necrom chapter. So yes, you will need to purchase Necrom in order to play as an Arcanist, and this is a separate purchase from ESO Plus if you're already a subscriber, so keep that in mind. In terms of theme and visuals, the Arcanist class is definitely ESO's most ambitious class to date, with deep ties to the lore of Daedric Prince Hermaeus Mora and the plane of Apocrypha. We'll get to travel to Apocrypha ourselves during the upcoming Necrom chapter, and I expect we'll get a lot more details from...
I think this was actually one of my most favorite zones actually in Skyrim because it's so mysterious, and this kind of water always spooked me, and those kind of tentacle beings and stuff. Like, Apocrypha is definitely one of the most interesting Daedric realms, like seriously. And Hermaeus Mora is, if I'm not mistaken, one of the oldest Daedric lords, right? Like he's one of the first that were out there. So he probably knows like all the secrets, how this world came to be and everything. And like for no reason his realm is even called the realm of knowledge, right? Because they're like out of books and stuff, and some people go mad by just reading some.
From now until then, about just what makes the Arcanist unique and how they are compared to ESO's other 6 classes. But stylistically, you'll see a lot of vibrant green visuals that represent the class,
that's from the Crown Store.
often in the forms of these ancient runes. These runes will float around your character, display on the ground, or even attack enemies directly as part of the Arcanist's skill set. Spellbooks also seem to be a huge component of the class's visual style, as player characters will often have spellbooks in hand as part of a skill's animation, as we've already seen with quite a few of the skills which were revealed so far. The Tomes of Knowledge...
What is this AoE skill actually? That looks kind of cool. It looks like you're throwing either book pages or some cards or something. Like let's look at this one again. Like look at this. Oh, those like freaking... Yeah, those are like freaking pages. Like you're throwing shuriken or something. That's like ninja mode right there. I think actually they look really nice. I like how they're like those sort of... rune symbols and stuff, right? It looks really nice, like aesthetically.
As part of a skill's animation, as we've already seen with quite a few of the skills which were revealed so far. The Tomes of Knowledge and the Black Books of Hermaeus Mora seem to be a huge inspiration for the class and most likely a source of power for the skills that we'll be able to unlock as part of the class skill lines. Now, according to creative director Rich Lambert, this class is something that's very different than anything they've built before. It's tightly integrated into the overarching story of the chapter. OP. And so yeah, a lot of the inspiration definitely centers around Hermaeus Mora, but also
That's what disappointed me about Warden. So when the Warden came out, I was freaking disappointed at the lore about the Warden. It is a freaking confusing mess. Apparently the powers come from Ifri or something, right? But you're using cliff racers that are found in Vardenfell, of course, like fitting to the expansion, right? But you have like a bear you can summon. I don't know any bears in Vardenfell. Where do they come from? Are they from Hrothgar? Are they from... I don't know, Glenumbra? Where are those bears coming from? Like, I have no clue. And then you have those with sub-assault, you have those bugs. Okay, they can be found anywhere. Then you have like the Fetcher flies, those kind of mosquito thingies, right? They look like they're straight out of Black Marsh or something. So, like, what's the identity of the Warden? Like, some say it's Ifri worship, but the Orcs worship Malakath, and you can still be a Warden. And, like, it's just so confusing. Like, what the heck is even the Warden? I hope, actually, that this time they actually deliver to the player what the Arcanist is from a lore perspective, because the Warden freaking confused me. Like, with Necromancer, you can't do anything wrong. It's just, like, some sort of evil mage that's interested in raising the dead, and some have, like, are hungry for power and stuff. So necromancers, they make sense. They're very classic, just like rogue warrior and this kind of stuff, right? But yeah, one was very confusing. I hope they actually managed to deliver what the Arcanist is from a lore perspective to the players. And by the way, guys, if you're new to this channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content.
Thirst for forbidden knowledge, the knowledge of the arcane. Rich also said the theme of the Arcanist is darker and has a more cosmic horror vibe, which we've seen throughout the trailers for Necrom, and I think we'll also discover as we dive deeper into the skills in just a minute. Rich also mentioned the Arcanist has several unique audio cues that have not been heard before in ESO, so I'm definitely looking forward to exploring this class. Now, in other interviews, Rich also spoke about the technical challenges of bringing the 7th new class to ESO, which I think is also pretty interesting. I mean, basically, the Arcanist actually took something like probably 2 to 3 years to create. So it's something that they've wanted to do for a while, but technical issues and game resources being a big hurdle in the meantime, something that they had to overcome at first. And I believe it took something like about a year for ESO engineers just to create enough memory in the game files itself to make room for the Arcanist's unique look and skills. And speaking of skills, the design team has stressed that the Arcanist will be easy to pick up for new players, but also have depth for veteran players. And it's going to fit well into all the basic roles present in ESO, including tanks, healers, and DPS builds. And lead combat designer Brian Wheeler described the Arcanist as the most versatile class yet, able to fit into any playstyle. So in terms of the Arcanist skills, this is where things start to get really interesting. And we'll use the rest of this video to dive deeper into all the skills and the skill lines that we've learned about so far. There are definitely some new ideas here that we've never seen before, and some other skills which look familiar but expand on existing skills and ideas from other classes. First, the 3 main skill lines of the Arcanist are set up exactly how the Warden and the Necromancer class skill lines were created in the past, with one dedicated skill line for each playstyle focus, that being tanking, DPS, and healing respectively. We already know the names of these skill lines as well, and their connection to Apocrypha and...
But he's right. Like, if you look at like the base classes that we had from launch on, like they have a mixture of DPS, healing, and defense, and this and that in all single skill trees. But if we look at, for example, the Warden, you could say like some of the frost skills, like, yeah, sure, they do some damage too. But for the most part, they're like skills you use if you're like doing, let's say, tanking. So if you're doing tanking, you look at the frost tree, right, on the Warden. If you're a healer, you look at like the mushrooms and all the kind of plant stuff. And yeah, and for like animals, there's like DPS and stuff. So yeah, I actually think this is even better if they actually separate those 3, because you don't get so much confused. If you're on a Dragon Knight, for example, and let's say you want to be a healer or something, like you get so crazy confused because like some of the skills you want as like a tank are like the DPS, like under DPS ones. If you want the heals, they're under some tank ones and this and that. And it's like a little confusing. So I think I kind of like that there's like some order and you are not so confused. Then you can like look, okay, this tree is for this is for that. I like that actually.
Hermaeus Mora really shines through here. For example, we know that Herald of the Tome is the DPS focused skill line.
That looks cool.
Apocryphal Soldier is the tank focused skill line, and Curative Rune Forms will be focused on healing and buffs. But that's not all. In addition to their unique skill lines, the Arcanist class will also gain access to a unique combat mechanic, which has been described as a point-based combo system. The term for this in-game is called Crux, and these are basically runes of energy that your character can build up by casting specific class skills, and then spend for bonus effects by casting other class skills.
So those 3
we'll talk more about this in just a minute. But that said, I do want to cover every single confirmed skill so far, starting with the newest skill that we learned about more recently called Fate Carver. This skill was debuted in an exclusive trailer with IGN, and it looks really cool if I do say so myself. Described by Brian Wheeler as a big laser that you channel in front of you that damages enemy targets within the path. This basically looks like the Templar's Radiant Oppression skill on steroids. And I do love a good beam skill personally, but the interesting thing here is that the beam itself seems to be aimed by the player that casts it, instead of direct.
You are kidding me, right? That's like the freaking Evoker in World of Warcraft, where you have like a sort of like skill that you have to like aim at a direction, like some sort of beam thingy, right? Because the same is like in World of Warcraft. And I think they took maybe inspiration from World of Warcraft Dragonflight for that. But that is definitely different from other classes, because usually you target everything. If you're on the Templar and using your execute, like Radiant Oppression, for example, what are you doing? You target a player, you press it, the beam just follows the player until he's out of sight or it's over, right? But here you actually have to be careful to not miss the person. But that also means this is probably going to be broken OP, because the developers, they will take into account that you sometimes miss or you don't have like full uptime on your target because your target is moving. So I think this will be super hard to balance between PvE and PvP. Because if you want to make this still relevant in PvP, it needs to do decent damage, because another player will always walk out, right? So maybe you only hit him for like 3-4 seconds, and maybe the duration, like let's say 5 seconds, right? So maybe you're always going to lose like 1-2 seconds of DPS time, at least. So they have to freaking increase the damage. But if you're doing PvE content, there are some stationary bosses, or like, yeah, like there are phases where they're like mobs or bosses that don't move much. So you can stay at one spot and you do so much damage, and it's just so broken OP because they don't walk out of it. So I feel like this will be so hard and difficult to balance between PvE and PvP.
Towards a specific target, like a typical, single target skill in ESO would be. In the short gameplay trailer that ZeniMax provided, we can see that the player is directing the beam itself, as whoever is playing aims a bit too high at first and hits nothing, but then quickly adjusts their aim to bring it down in line with the enemy. So personally, I love this idea and this extension on this beam type of skill. It's pretty unique in my opinion. Obviously, the close comparison you could think of would be Templar's Radiant Oppression, which I mentioned earlier, but with the additional targeting freedom of something like a Warden Deep Fissure skill, I think this one is going to have some amazing potential for damage dealing combos, both in PvE and PvP, and I can't wait to try this one out for myself. And speaking of beams, there is yet another beam skill that I've read about. This comes from another interview, in fact, but instead of damage, the focus on this one is healing.
So
now it is unclear if this is maybe just a morph option for Fate Carver,
probably,
or a completely different skill, but to me it does sound like a different skill, one that we will probably find in the Curative Runes skill line. Of course, keep in mind that everything we know so far is still months away from release.
I think it's going to be a morph, because if you have too many skills that look the same sort of animation-wise, I think that's not what ZOS is about, right? So I think what they will do, maybe it will be a morph. Because if you have two beams, it's kind of boring. Like, why would you want to have two skills that look the same sort of? Unless they make somehow this beam be something different with like maybe like many smaller multiple beams or something, or the beam actually chases a player and follows them or something. Like, I don't know, maybe they can somehow make it that it looks different. But if it looks too similar, I'm pretty sure this would just be a morph for the already existing damaging one.
And could potentially change. But regardless, the name of this skill is Remedy Cascade. It is a healing beam that can also be aimed, so similar to Rune Carver, but it's healing focused, obviously.
Then morph, probably.
And players can spend crux on this skill to add bonus magicka and stamina recovery to anyone standing within the beam. So right there you have another example of how crux will work in upping the power or utility of the Arcanist skill, which is a bit similar in my opinion to how necromancers utilize corpses to empower some of their class abilities, but with a slightly different twist.
Yeah.
Again, some skills build up your crux, while other skills spend whatever crux you have saved up. And apparently Remedy Cascade is going to be a spender ability. Next up we have Rune Spite Ward, which is a defensive damage skill, which we know belongs to the Apocryphal Soldier skill line,
looks so cool,
as this was revealed on the main ESO website. And now what's interesting is there also seems to be a damage shield skill in the Curative Rune Forms skill line as well, though we don't know the name of that one yet. However, the difference is that Rune Spite Ward deals damage. We also know this can be improved by using Crux. So this sounds a bit to me like Templar's Blazing Shield skill, which damages enemies when the shield expires.
Yes.
But we'll have to wait and see more specifics to know exactly for sure how the Arcanist's multiple shield skills are unique from each other. Also shown off during the Arcanist reveal was the damage skill Abyssal Impact, which has a truly unique visual style. This skill infuses your arms with an unstable magic, transforming it into a tentacle that thrusts forward, damaging enemies in front of you. To me, this reminds me of something like the Necromancer skill Ruinous Scythe or Hungry Scythe, which is actually in the Necro Tank skill tree. So we'll see if this also holds true for the Arcanist. Another skill with a bit more controversy is the Apocryphal Gate.
I actually think this is for stamina DPS. Like, this tentacles, like, sure, it could be for tanks, but to me it looks way too violent. It looks like something you want to use as a DPS. That looks like a freaking DPS burst sort of skill. Like, that's kind of like the, yeah, maybe that's like sub assault for like the one where you like, maybe actually, I'm not sure if you can like perma spam this or if it even has like a, I don't know, it's probably going to be really expensive. So it's something that's like expensive but deals a lot of damage. And it's for stamina DPS, I think. Because it looks like, because if you look like here, it does like tons of damage to the mobs, and like some mobs die from it, like get one shot.
Which is a truly unique visual style.
That's no tanking
skill. The skill infuses
it
your
looks
arms
like it
with
hits
an
hard.
unstable magic, transforming it into a tentacle that thrusts forward,
DPS,
damaging enemies in front of you. To me, this reminds me of something like the Necromancer skill Ruinous Scythe or Hungry Scythe, which is actually in the Necro Tank skill tree. So we'll see if this also holds
really
true
hot.
for the Arcanist. Another skill with a bit more controversy is the Apocryphal Gate skill, which opens a pair of temporary portals between your location and wherever you're aiming that you can jump between for extra mobility during
It's so
combat,
cool. It's like
or
the
even
Warlock in
for
World
greater
of Warcraft.
exploration outside of combat. When reviewing the trailer footage, it does seem like there is some vertical component to the portals as well, which is where I think this would be really interesting to use in combat and even just for exploration. For example, could this be used to jump up a keep wall in Cyrodiil, or could you use this to access maybe areas outside of a normal ESO map?
They have to patch this.
Digging a bit deeper into the skill on the ESO website, I was able to find that the portals are not just for yourself as the Arcanist, but that apparently other players, or at least your group members, can also use your portals too. Now this is a...
But look, it is a bit higher ground here. Like, imagine you can use this as in freaking Cyrodiil to freaking attack a keep, and you don't need to bother breaking the wall or the gate or anything. You just freaking take a group of like 10 plus people, and you just teleport on the wall, and then you just take the keep. I think they're going to nerf this or change it. Maybe they will actually make the range so short that this skill is shit. Because they would probably have to do something and to fix it. But the wall and from the ground, especially if you're like at very like close to it, it is not a long distance. So how much are they going to shorten it? Like, they have to shrink it where it's like just a few meters or something, so people don't exploit this in freaking Cyrodiil, right? Unless they can somehow manage to add like a maximum height or something, or like the distance counts only the ground or something. I wonder how they're gonna solve this.
Portals too. Now this is a support skill after all, as it does belong to the Curative Rune Form skill line. So there's a lot of really interesting potential use cases for this skill that I cannot wait to explore. If you guys have any ideas of how to use this and abuse this...
That's so wrong here, guys. Do you guys see what's wrong here? So we got here the DPS. There's the boss. The boss is hitting the freaking DPS. And who goes first through the portal? It's the freaking tank, the one that has the aggro on it. No, he no longer has the aggro, and this boss looks like he's going for the DPS here. Maybe possibly a stamina knight player or something with a bow and something. But yeah, that sucks. Like, you should leave the boss as a tank. Let the others go first to that portal. So whoever played this, you did your role wrong. Let the others move first through the portal. If you're the tank, you're going through last, please. Don't make this mistake here.
Skill, make sure to let us know down in the comments section too. And finally, in Herald of the Tome, we do know one more confirmed damage skill from the skill line, which is called Rune Blades. This appears to be a basic DPS skill which can be performed at range, so this would compare well to other skills like Necromancer Skulls or the Warden Cliff Racer. We do also know that the Rune Blades is a crux builder, so each time you hit a target, it seems to increase the count of crux surrounding you by 1.
That's good.
So likely this skill will play a big part in a DPS Arcanist rotation, letting you build up that crux quickly to empower your other abilities in rotation to do even more damage or provide other bonus effects. So those are the confirmed skills so far that we know of, but we do have hints of a few other skill types that will be part of the Arcanist toolkit. This comes directly from the ESO website, which I've included in my Arcanist guide at hacktheminotaur.com. Make sure you check that out. There's actually a few extra skills described in the Apocryphal Soldier section, which I find very interesting. The first one especially is a skill that, quote, allows you to dominate your foe's attention. This is surely some type of taunt skill, but
yeah, that's what
it actually has a lot more possibilities than you might think. For example, in ESO's Update 37 coming up, there is a clear definition of soft taunt skills that they've been working on, which includes any skill that pulls an enemy towards the caster. So in the case of the Arcanist, this could simply mean that the class has a basic pull ability. Of course, it could also mean that the Arcanist class has a direct taunt skill, something like Pierce Armor, but I sort of doubt that because that would make them much more flexible tanks compared to any other class in the game, which there's no other skill
and
like
too
that.
Many skills then.
Could the Arcanist maybe even have an AoE taunt skill, which players have been asking for in ESO for a long time? Even if it was only a soft taunt. That would definitely be really interesting, but again, we'll have to wait and see more details on what this actually means. The ESO website also describes a buff to your party or your own defense capabilities, which sounds to me very similar to the Warden's armor buff, which has a self-buff morph and a group buff morph. Now I think if the Arcanist got that sort of similar type of skill, that might be a little bit redundant, a little bit boring. So hopefully it is something a bit more interesting, maybe a self and a group version of major or minor evasion. Let me know what you guys think that means in the comments. Now that said, I'm also expecting some type of unique buff or debuff that really pushes the Arcanist over the top and makes them highly desirable for groups, similar to how the Necromancer received major vulnerability. Only time will tell, obviously, but let me know what you think about these skills down in the comment section below. Do you like how the Arcanist toolkit looks so far? And what other type of abilities do you think needs to be added? Also, make sure to check out our Arcanist class guide at hacktheminotaur.com. It's fully updated, where I have screenshots and descriptions of every skill we mentioned in this video, and where we'll be adding all the updated information as soon as we can get it. I'll have a link for that down in the description, and as always, I hope you're doing well, stay safe out there, and I will see you around in the next video.
Wow, I feel like the Arcanist is going to be a very OP cool class. Like, I love the animations. I love this with the freaking runes that you summon around you. Like, Crux is the name, right? And if you have 3, you do like more damage or you get some buffs, right? And you can probably like consume them. Yo, this is so cool. And I actually really hope it gets like major brutality and sorcery access with a skill that is not trash. Because right now, for example, if I play a Necromancer, I rely on freaking pots for major brutality and sorcery, and it's so annoying. And the Warden, I just have the Netch. It's also my sustain skill, and it's a must-have on the bar, right? Plus, it's an animal skill, so you actually gain damage from the passives as well, right? And I really hope that the Arcanist has this too. I feel like there are some classes that are missing access to major sorcery and brutality. Like, I would have hoped that the Necromancer gets it with either the skeleton it summons or the ghost, but no, you have to rely on potions, so yeah. And yeah, this time we have some lore to it, what is really cool. Hemora's Mora is the lore, the reason behind the Arcanist, what is really cool. With the Warden we didn't have that. It's very confusing. We still don't know where the Warden is even from. What's the Warden, right? And yeah, I think they will have a hard time with the beam. Like, they will have a very hard time balancing this, because it's going to be broken in PvE if they make it useful in PvP, because it's a skill you have to target and it seems to do a lot of damage, right? So yeah, I think they will have a big issue balancing that. And about this portal, I can't wait to try this in Zero Deal. Freaking get my group and teleport on a wall and take the keep without breaking the wall. Like, I think they're gonna patch this, or they find a solution. Maybe they can add the maximum height for it or so when you cast it. I don't know if they can do that, but it would be interesting to see what they will do with it. But yeah, I would probably play a Stamina Arcanist, because a lot of those skills seem to be in melee range. And unless this one can be played like a Magicka DK, I will most definitely go for the Stamina version. So yeah, which one will you pick? Magicka, Stamina, full hybrid? Let me know in the comment section and what you think about the Arcanist. I'm loving it. I will definitely grind one up. And yeah, if you guys are new to this channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content. If you guys enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give this one a thumbs up. I wish everyone a wonderful day. I will see you guys next time.